we're back and live with Real Talk with me, Emma G. It's a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday here in Washington, D.C. I know that it's a bit of a less crappy day in New Zealand because I know that it was raining and miserable yesterday. But wherever you are in the world, I'm super pumped that you're here because today I am joined by the goddess of a human that is Debra Alfarone. How are you, my love?
Wow. I love an intro like that. Damn, I'll take it. I'm even better now. Thank you.
Well, I
Aw.
mean, credit where credit's due, right? Like, you and I met a long, long time ago. It feels like an age ago. Um, in our circuits between, other public speakers and motivators and life coaches. And I'm just like, it's such an honor to know who you are and be able to be in your presence. And you fill the world with so much love and sunshine, which is so needed at the moment.
Wow. It's so funny how I don't think of myself that way, although that's what I strive to do. So I'm honored to hear you say that. That means we can end this interview now. I'm good. Like that was I got what I came here for. Like I just feel so much better about myself. Love and sunshine. Like you just have a wonderful way of seeing the good in people. And so thank you so much. I love that.
I'm blessed.
So
Thank you. I
happy.
mean, we have what's the saying? Like we have two wolves that we can feed at any one time. I choose to always feed the positive wolf, because it's true. I have no idea. Like I can't even begin to comprehend what kind of dark wolves you might have in yourself. But all I see is love and sunshine. So we're just gonna keep it with that.
I'm taking. I'm there. I'm there. I'm trying to make sure my husband comes home and hears you say that.
Well,
Not
you've
the
got to be good.
hey, did you take the garbage out?
So,
That's a different one.
for those who are listening right now, can you give people like I've obviously told people who you are in the caption of this video, but I mean, besides being the goddess that you are, how would you summarize? Because when you and I met, you were a news anchor, um,
Yeah.
and now you're doing and you continue to do and pivot and change, and you're doing so much at the moment. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so I am a career news journalist. I was an anchor here in Washington, D.C., and now I freelance report for a division of CBS News. But I also have my own business. So I had this job that was not filling my soul. And so I left it. I had this news anchor job that wasn't filling my soul, not because of what I did, but really because of the company and who I was working for and the appreciation factor. And you know what? I learned something very valuable that when you don't feel appreciated and you're not being appreciated, go. Go where the appreciation is. Go and fill that need. So
Mm,
I did. I left and I started my own business and I coach reporters to be awesome on camera, but I also coach anyone with a mission and a message. So, an author, an entrepreneur, an expert, anyone at all that wants to be on camera, wants to
mhm,
make their own videos. I had a call today with a yoga studio. How do they make their own videos, and how do they reach out to the press to amplify their message? So that's what my business does. So I kind of keep a foot in both worlds. And right now, with the news being just whoa, like so heavy, I hate to admit that I am enjoying the entrepreneurial side of my life a little more these days.
right,
I know I have lots of friends who work in news and they are doing the heavy lifting for me.
right.
They're out there doing the thing, and I'm okay right now to let them do that.
Yeah, yeah. I can't even begin to comprehend the
Yeah.
magnitude of what you guys and girls and women and everybody that's in the news. Sorry, I use the term guys very loosely
No,
because
I do too. I do too. I go, hey guys, and it's two women. I'm like,
it's amazing, I promise.
I know. I don't know. So I'm right there with you. This is an issue I have. Is calling
Yeah.
everyone guys. Hey guys to my dog.
Just want to clarify that. But yeah, the magnitude of what you guys have to deal with at the moment, I can't even begin to imagine. So I'm pumped that you are doing so much for other news people, but just people who are finding themselves in an area that they're like, okay, I've started this new business because we need to be feeding our souls. We
Mhm.
need to be spreading these messages of positivity and love. How can I do this in a way that doesn't leave me looking like an ass?
Yeah, and sometimes we think we look like an ass when we don't, and then also that stops us. So a lot of, you wouldn't be surprised to hear this probably, but a lot of my coaching and training is how to get out of your own head. And I kind of say it a little bit differently. I say, how do you GTFO of your own way?
Right,
How do
right.
you get the
You can
hell
swear
out
on
of
this,
your
by the
head?
way. You're more than welcome to swear as much as you like.
Awesome. This is going to be great. All right, I'm going to wait. Where's my drink? Let's do this. Yeah. Yeah,
Get that wine in here,
absolutely.
girl. Get that wine.
Let's get it. I'll see. My husband will come in when he comes home. I hope, can you give me some wine? Because now, kind of connected here. But anyway, yeah. Basically, we got to get the hell out of our own way so that we can rise to the challenge of sharing our message.
Yeah,
People need to hear what we have to say.
yeah, yeah.
Every one of
Absolutely.
us.
I think it's really, coming from, I don't know where you grew up, but having grown up in New Zealand, um, there's this, I feel this imbalance kind of energy that I grew up with, where, because I truly believe like everybody has a message, everybody has a purpose, everybody has a why, a cause, something that God or Buddha or whoever, whatever powers that be that you believe in, put you on this earth to share and do and speak. But it's there are so many people who think, well, why? Who am I? Who am I to show up? Who am I to be special? Who am I? Or more importantly, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing is if you woke up this morning, okay, like you woke up and you went, you have breath, guess what? You're good enough and we want to hear from you. Like
Yeah,
it's not, think about all that had to conspire to create you. Like
yeah,
this is not just some mistake. Like no, the world needs what you've got. And you get to add to the world in the way that you get to add to, like you being here makes the world what it is. It's
yeah,
hard to wrap your mind around. And it's easy to feel small because what we do is we're like, oh, that person has all this or that person has all that. We're just kind of tuned into like what other people have, but we got to just keep it on ourselves because who cares what that person has or what they did?
mm-mm, mm-mm, absolutely. You talked about feeding your soul. That's something that I'm super passionate about. I know, surprising. Uh,
I like it.
particularly having moved to this country with a bag and a guitar. But
Yes.
how do people like? What made you? What gave you the courage, I guess, to like come to that realization?
Sometimes it's not easy. Okay, I'm not going to say that my life was this easy life, and I don't want anyone to ever think that I had it easy. I think you have to go through a little bit of shit to
Mm,
really understand how important it is to share your voice. Um, I always say that I do what I do because I didn't have a voice growing up. I grew up in Hicksville, Long Island, and it sounds, like this Hicksville, like for the uninitiated. No, it actually does exist. This does exist, a place called
oh,
Hicksville.
that's actually cool. Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, I knew it was gonna blow your mind with that. I knew it. Yeah, it literally is a place. And there's another person who's from there that you might have heard of named Billy Joel. Yeah, so
Oh,
Billy
no
Joel went to my high
way.
school. Yeah.
That's
So
amazing. Okay.
so growing up in Hicksville, Long Island, as a kid, my parents split up. Um, I wasn't raised. I kind of raised myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through a lot of hardship through like my young teenage years. And I ended up dropping out of school. So I'm a high school dropout. And I worked as a cashier. And I just remember thinking no one was really paying attention to me. No one's listening to me. I'm not important. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the message I got. And if I can do what I do, like if I can become a network correspondent with some of these awards behind me, anyone can do anything that they want to do.
Yeah.
It truly is. It just takes a couple of people along the way who see something in you
Yeah.
and the wherewithal to create yourself. And how do you create yourself? Sometimes you got to hit rock bottom. Sometimes life's got to suck for you to get back up and go, wait a minute, what do I want to be? How do I want to be that person? And then just kind of create that. And
Yeah.
I find that the creation starts in words, like what you call yourself.
Right. Right. I remember way back when I was still living in Hamilton, New Zealand. I remember, people used to ask me like, well, what do you do for a job? What do you do? Who are you? And I used to
Right.
say, I'm a musician. And the response was always, you're not a musician. You're a hobbyist who plays music. That's your hobby. What's your actual? I'm like, no, and so it's interesting. Like you're completely right. The words that we use to describe ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves are so important. But it's really hard, I think, sometimes when you've got so much outward negativity that just
Yes.
likes to feast itself in your brains. How do
It
you?
really does. Yeah. It does. It does, right? Like this thing, if
Right.
used correctly, can make you so strong and powerful. And if used incorrectly, woo, that thing can stop you.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So what are the things that, like, especially during quarantine? What are the
Uh-huh.
how how is this? How are you managing to still show up
I don't
during?
always. I'll be honest with you. And
Okay,
I'm all about honesty. I don't always. There are going to be days when you don't feel like showing up. And also in these unprecedented times. So, hey, hats off to the people who are like doing the thing and redecorating the house. And hey, I've done some things like, but I haven't redecorated the house or anything. So I
right,
wish I was that person. But there are some days when I don't feel like being productive. And it is tough. It is tough because I am such a productive person normally. So I always say, number one, give yourself some leeway there. If you don't
right,
feel like it, I get it. But in general, what I do is, and I've created this over speaking because I also do keynote speeches. I also I've come up with this thing. I call it my GTFO method. And I actually have to use it often enough. So when I give speeches, I'll tell people, because they want to know, like, people will be intrigued. Well, how'd you go from being a high school dropout to a network TV correspondent? How do you do that? And
mhm,
it does take me GTFOing out of my own head.
right,
So this is the method that I use. As you know, GTFO, there's 4 steps. G is to get real about the labels that you wear or put on yourself. So get real.
right.
Okay. That's the hardest part. T is for triumphs. Actually take an inventory of all the cool shit that you've done. And when
That
you
is
do
so
that,
important. That
right?
is so important. No, sorry, I'm gonna end
It is.
because I realized the other day with one of my friends who's also a life coach, um, I don't celebrate my wins.
Neither do I. Did I? Neither did I.
Right, right. So my housemate and I have started a weekly celebration of like, okay, what have you done this week that you are winning about? It's so important. So celebrating your triumphs, I'm all about it.
Yeah, and life coaches also know, and I've done some coaching training, and one of the things that they'll say is ask your client what would they like to be acknowledged for this week. And so it makes sense. We should be celebrating our triumphs. And I used to literally I won this Emmy here, the only Emmy I ever won. Did you know I didn't do anything about it? I just got it and put it on my shelf and never said anything and never put a post on Facebook, never, because I just found it distasteful where people were like, "Oh, I got this award or that." It was all in my head. It was all in my head. I wasn't allowing myself to celebrate myself.
Of course, that's fantastic. I had I had no idea you had an Emmy.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool, right? Like you wouldn't even know. And look, my head's like, meh.
Yeah,
So yeah, but there's a reason why you don't know because I don't make a big deal of it. And
right.
there's something in my head that doesn't allow me to do that. Doesn't allow me to celebrate because you've got this like stuff ingrained in you from childhood. But I
Mhm.
made the effort to do that. And so T, triumphs, oh, huge, 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 huge. And if you sit down and you write down your triumphs, like literally today I was there for a friend. Like that's a triumph. Write them down. You will fill page upon page if you let yourself.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's G and T, and F and O is freedom to choose. Freedom to choose your new label. Because guess what? You weren't having any freedom when you chose that old label of not good enough, not skinny enough, not young enough, bleh. Right? So you choose the new label, and then O is to own it. So if I chose the label, let's say, multi-million dollar business owner, how would I show up? I probably wouldn't be in Madame PJs, right? And
right.
I'd probably be calling up Oprah or whoever else. Like I'd be making the bigger calls. I wouldn't say, "Oh, I just hope that I get some business today." No, I'd go out there and get that shit. I'd be like,
Right.
"Yo, I've got this wonderful thing. We should work together. Let's partner up." Like I would have the just the
Kahuna.
chutzpah. Yeah, the cojones,
The
the
stones.
chutzpah, the balls, the nerve, the boom, the everything to be like, "Yo, you need to work with me. I'm fucking magic. Look at me."
Right, right.
Right?
I
So
love that.
it's GTFO, and I've had to use it just because I talk about it doesn't mean I always use it. So I've got to go back to it and go back to it and go back to it when I feel small,
Right,
which
right.
we all do.
No, I love that. I love that part of owning it really resonates with me because I feel like, there's so many labels, and I'm sure you've experienced this on a regular basis, especially if you're having difficulty with, with honoring your past, you know, accolades. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah,
That when we show up for each other or for ourselves, even, it's like, how do you make sense of that when you're still like, I don't know, for me, I'm still this really insecure, because trust me, I have not been as loudmouthed as I am now. Human being from a small town high school, it's crazy the kind of labels that we refuse to let go of. But one of the sayings that resonated with me this morning as I was waking up to my Spotify alarm clock was, in order to become the person you want to be, you have to let go of the person you once were.
boom, boom, Emma, boom, boom, boom. You just said it, and that's the thing is that we don't have to accept those labels. I always say this. As we go through the GTFO method, I always go back to the G and look at that stuff you wrote down. That's actually not real. Because
Right.
look at the T. That's real. Like that's some stuff that you did. Like I can pick up that award. Like I can feel it in my hand. There's things that's just a fact. But the G, the labels that you come up with, they're just not real. At the end of your life and you die, you're on the operating table, we're going to cut you open. We're not going to see a not good enough. It's not going to be in there. It's not
Right.
going to be in there. We're not going to see a, oh, she's too old. It's not going to be in there. Or
Right.
she's too this or too that, or she's too loud, or she's too whatever the hell. It's not going to be in there. We're never going to cut you open and find one of those. It's just not real. It's bullshit.
Right. 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 Isn't that funny though? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even.
But I've let it happen to me. I've spent most of my life like that. So yeah.
I find, and it's funny because I think a lot of people who put those labels on themselves, they look at others and they think there's no way that person has negative self-talk.
Yeah.
That's
Everyone does.
right. And I think that's really important. Like some of my best friends, very successful entrepreneurs and business owners, and and they still are waking up every day going, I'm too old for this now, or what will people think if I do this or do that, or how am I going to show up today to prove myself?
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Who are you proving yourself to? The only person you need to be bettering yourself is the person you were yesterday.
Damn,
I
is that good? That is good. Yeah, absolutely. We don't have to be better than any other person, or like, what does it matter? We're not running the same race,
Right,
right?
right.
But yeah, and it's funny because we do look at other people and go, they have it all together. Well, actually, they're just as crazy as we are. But they're not admitting it because why? Because their Instagram feed is beautiful. And by the way, in this pandemic, I have done a lot of unfollowing because I don't want to see your beautiful feed that's actually BS. And
Yeah,
I know that might be a controversial thing to say, but if you're not leaning into the mess of what's going on right now and being real, I'm just not that interested. You're not as interesting to me.
I if I was wearing a hat, I would take it off to you right now. Amen. No, it's completely true. I think that's one of the beautiful silver linings of this pandemic is people are really having to be more, they're needing to show up. They're needing to be more themselves. I put out a post, I don't know if you saw this, but somebody accused me of having liposuction the other day
You've
because
been working your butt off. What are you talking about? Who's gonna? What?
I mean, there we go. But here we are. And so I'm like, I'm doing a lot of working out and I'm looking out for myself a lot better these days. But because I've got the time, because we're
Yeah,
quarantining.
I've seen your posts. I've seen your posts, and you look amazing, and you have earned it.
Thank you.
Earned it. Yeah.
But yeah, my response was to like actually get real with people. And I think, I mean, and that was it's been the most successful post I've made in months because people need that authenticity. They need to like stop wearing, I don't know, the little Gucci dress. You're, you're doing whatever at home. Show up like you are real. We don't have
Yeah.
to sell this fairy tale life anymore because we're all in this together, right?
I know. And I'm embarrassed to look at some of my older posts. I mean, I never did posts on Instagram that were like, oh, look at me. It was never, you're never going to see that. But there are posts where I'm wearing dresses that are pretty and I'm in nice places and those are the posts that you put up, and you know what? Those are the posts that do well. So, I have I've definitely got some learnings from this as well. But yeah, if you're dressing up and like you're still doing that same like pre-pandemic post, like,
Mm,
come on, show me what's real here. Show
yeah.
me what's real. But I'm not surprised that your post did well because I had this wonderful speaking coach once. He's so good. I think I have his book somewhere. Oh, I have it here. I'll do a little plug. Your Amazing Itty Bitty Guide to Being TED Worthy. This is my coach, my speaking coach, John
Yep.
Bates. And I didn't mean to do this. I just didn't have it either. I'm talking about him. But he said, your people connect with your mess, not your success.
Oh, right to the feelings.
Right? And
I
it's the
love
truth.
that.
Oh my God, it's the truth. People want to know about your mess. That's why I tell people, I was a high school dropout. I was a hot mess. I didn't know, like, no one listened to me and I felt invisible. And now people are like, oh my gosh, I felt that. What, really? I didn't know that. Oh, I felt invisible at times too. They can connect with that, but they
Yeah,
can't connect with your glossy, beautiful dress and no, they
yeah,
can't connect with that. And that's why I was like, unfollow, unfollow, and unfollow.
yeah. I mean, I have to like credit where credit's due. It's still wonderful to see, people showing up and like your feed is always so inspiring and things, but you know, the content of each thing that you post is really, it's empowering. And I think so it's that balance between like what's real and well, I mean, your empowering stuff is also real, but what's phony and what's authentic when it comes to being empowering,
Yeah, I feel like my husband always says, read the room, read the room. Like, we're dealing with the pandemic, and today I think it was, and 100,000 people have died is the grim milestone, and we're dealing with people out of work. And so when you post about your fancy whatever it is, I don't know, your fancy dinner or your fancy new purse that you ordered off of Amazon, read the room. Like, read the room. I don't know.
who are you trying to make have a bad day?
Yeah. But there are people that lift me up. There are definitely people that I do see on there, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to share that. So,
Yeah,
for everyone that's not getting it, that's okay. No shame and no judgment. Just unfollow.
yeah, valid. I want to talk about your TED Talk.
Thanks.
That's
That was my
so
coach.
yeah, right. I mean, you kind of segued it beautifully. TED Talk, like tell like how did you what was your TED Talk on? How did you go about it? What drove you to do a TED Talk? Because they're super intimidating audiences, right?
Well, it can be. So there's two things I want to clear up. One thing, people think TED Talk and they think like it's a TED Talk, but there's also things called TEDx talks, and those are much they're more localized things. So they might be like a Washington D.C. TEDx, or there's like a Northern Virginia, or maybe there's George Washington University as a TEDx.
Okay.
And so I had a TEDx talk. Now
Okay.
to be on the TED stage, like yeah, you got to be invited to that, and one day, yeah, right? But it's funny. I wanted to give a talk because I realized I was doing a lot of like just stories around DC and talking to a lot. There's a lot of people who maybe are living in poverty, or they are domestic violence survivors or sex trafficking survivors. And I'm doing a lot of these talks and these stories with people who are dealing with some real stuff. And
Mhm.
I realized that when they realized that I was dealing with some real stuff, just getting over the fact that I had dropped out of high school and had to like talk myself into being who I am. There's a lot of inspiration there. And I was like, damn, I got a message that I really need to share. Because I never told anyone about this, by the way,
Right.
until I did this talk. Nobody knew. I never told anyone. I hid that part of my past. So in 2015, I just was getting to that point, and that's when a friend was starting a TEDx talk in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And she was like, I'm going to organize this TEDx talk. And I was like, I'm going to apply for it. And I did. And the first time they turned me down. And I thought I was a lock because I put together this video that was like I had my friend who's a photographer who, at the station I worked at. I had him, do a little bit of like editing and stuff. And so it was too glossy and perfect and Instagrammy, like it was too nice. And she got back to me and she's like, can you just tell me your story? Like, can you just like hop on and tell the story? We don't want all that. Like, that's too much. And so I told the story, and it was the fact that I was a high school dropout and I never told anybody. It was my secret. And that along the way, I realized that what we call ourselves creates ourselves. Right. So the labels that you have can either limit you or launch you. And that's the whole kind of like thing behind it.
That's amazing. Because you've been, beyond being a high school dropout, and now using that to launch yourself. I'm sure that you've used many aspects of your life to launch yourself. You've also been a massive ally in a whole bunch of troubled communities, right? Like you use your voice to really elevate the voices of survivors. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to. I realized somewhere along the way, I've always been someone that wants to give a voice to the voiceless, and, the powerless, the people who need us. That's what a journalist is supposed to do. We're supposed to tell the stories that aren't being told. Because anyone could turn on the TV and see about whatever, entertainment news is going on, or whatever's happening at the White House. But what about this community that no one knows about? Yeah. So I always wanted to, and I just wanted to use what I had, which was this platform, to give them a voice. And so I've done so many stories with domestic violence survivors. It takes the average survivor 7 times to leave an abusive situation, sex trafficking. Oh my gosh, the average age that a girl gets trafficked into this trade, like they're 12, 13. I remember being 12, 13. And if not for the grace of God, that could have happened to me. Because let me tell you, I was just not being watched over, and who knows what could have happened to me. I'm just lucky that didn't happen to me, because I was definitely in some dangerous situations. So I just connect with that. People who are formerly incarcerated and how tough it is. I told this amazing story about a guy who was... he had done time, and I forget exactly for what, but a gang-related crime. And when he got out, he couldn't get a job. So he started a business cleaning offices, and he only hires other ex-cons.
Oh, wow.
So, and it was amazing because, other people who were formerly incarcerated, he would... That's it's hard for people to get a job, and this company only employs them. So he did so much work in DC that John Legend actually took notice of him and gave him a grant. And so, yeah, because John Legend really, from what I remember doing this story, he really likes to invest in helping people. And so that was just a cause that was near and dear to his heart. And it's amazing. It's amazing how I could tell that story and let people know. And this guy was so cool. I love him. I could go on and 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 on about these communities and people who are people who are differently abled, which is a different way of saying disabled. So the amazing organizations that help them. There's a woman who I know who has cerebral palsy, and she ran a marathon. And your girl over here has never run a marathon, and she ain't ever going to run a marathon. And this woman ran a marathon, and it took her, way longer than other people in this marathon. And they had to open it up earlier, and that's the tenacity and the perseverance. And she's got a cane, and she's going. Jamie Watts is her name, and I find inspiration in these stories, and I feel so lucky, so blessed to have been able to tell those stories and meet these people. Because, like, heck, I just want to meet them. Like, they're amazing.
Being in the presence of survivors is, you know,
And
it's inspirational. It's inspirational, and you know, especially because you can connect. And it's one of those things, I think, that when you've survived one person's trauma, you can't compare traumas because there's so many cross-related, uh, you know, parts of ourselves that I think you can draw from. Like myself having had a tumultuous teenagehood as well as having 10 brain surgeries. And that people hear that and they freak out like, 10 brain surgeries, what is that? I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
but that doesn't mean like my trauma is just as you know, if you compare it to the trauma of a cerebral palsy marathon runner, my hat goes off to her 1000% more than it goes off to me. Like, who am I? Whatever. It's funny. It's funny.
It's interesting. Like, you're right, you can't compare because everybody's got their own story.
Right.
And what I take away from that specific story
Yeah.
with Jamie is that, and I love this because I remember asking her, how do you do what you do? Like, how do you do it? And she said that she grew up in a house where she was never told that she couldn't achieve something.
Preach.
And I was like, wow, when I have children, that's how I'm going to be. Like, I'm going to be like, of course you can do anything you want. Like, there is no no.
I
And
mean,
so
you're
I
like,
didn't grow up in that house.
right. But you still did it. You still refused to hear no. You're still here kicking ass and taking names,
That's right.
you know? So,
Yeah, I got lucky.
and you worked your butt off. Let's be
There's
real.
that too. There is that. Yes. Every weekend and holiday and overnight and all of that. Yeah.
All of it. All of it. Who needs to sleep when you can work?
Sleep when you're dead. Sleep when you're dead, right? Or sleep during the pandemic. I don't know.
Right. Right. So on that note, like how has this pandemic affected your business?
You know, it's interesting. I've changed my business model. So I realize I need to show up and even give more value than I did before, which I gave incredible value to people. But
Mm,
I'm showing up and giving more to people than I've ever had before. And that's because I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be able to do that. I'm married, so my husband and I, like, we can split the bills. So, like, and believe me, I am not a woman who lives in Potomac or anything like that. Like, I am not like this kept woman with a big rock on her finger. No, we work hard, both of us.
hmm
And just this time, I know that I need to give more. So I'm just giving more, and I'm coming up with new things. So I have a one-on-one coaching type package that I give to reporters. And so I decided, you know what? Not everyone can afford that, but everyone needs a cheerleader. Everyone needs some support right now. So I've opened it up to a membership that's much cheaper, but people
Right.
can then sign up for that. And sure, they don't get the one-on-one treatment, but they get a little bit of support and they get to know they're not alone. So I've got a Facebook group and I do Zoom calls and stuff like that. And I just show up for it. Maybe it's not the biggest moneymaker, and that's okay because that's not what this is about right now.
hmm
Now's the time for me to just rise to the challenge.
Yeah. Amen. That's awesome. Um, with regarding to like with regarding, I can't even get my words right today.
It's that kind of
Like
day.
I was saying to my housemate, it's like, you know, being isolated with a roommate, at least I have the ability to converse with somebody, but I'm still losing my words. One like the struggle is real right now, y'all.
I'm with you. I don't make a lot of sense these days.
Right. I mean, you're making perfect sense today to me,
Thanks.
just FYI. So when it comes to like these membership programs and helping people and really um, showing up and helping them to show up for themselves and for their communities. I imagine that you feel, because this is how I feel, and so I'm just going to project for a minute.
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
imagine that you know, that's one of the silver linings that you're seeing is people actually showing up for themselves and showing up for each other in a ways that we haven't been able to or encouraged to do over the last, gosh, millennia that we've been, you know, not millennia, a couple of thousand years, couple hundred
Yeah.
years that America's been in existence. It's not really, we've not really been a community-based community focused society. So for me, coming from New Zealand, where community is huge, that's been a super huge silver lining. Have there been any other silver linings that you've seen specifically relating to your business or relating to how people are functioning and dealing with this pandemic?
I think that we are we're really inventive. I mean, I don't know how many Zoom calls you've done, but I've done a lot of Zoom calls lately. And I'm really glad we're taking advantage of this technology. I've been using Zoom since I started my business in 2018 to do one-on-one coaching. And it's been great because I can coach people around the country. I can actually coach people around the world. So it's fantastic.
Mm,
The thing is that, you know, the silver lining is that I can be there for more people in a less formal way. I can say, hey, everyone, let's jump on a Zoom call. Here's the link. Let's do this, and get a bunch of people on and teach them or just be there to support. Because in the community, I have two different communities that I work with. It's the TV news reporter community, and they look up to me and they need to know that things are going to be okay. Like sometimes just the fact that I say, hey, I don't know what's going on either. Like, I'm here. I acknowledge you and I affirm you, and like you're doing a great job is enough.
yeah,
And then there's the community of entrepreneurs who I support who want to be on video, because if you're not on video right now, where are you? Like, this is how we do. We're on
yeah,
video constantly, and I want to be of service to them as well. And I think it's a great opportunity. I hate to say that anything good comes out of such a bad thing. I mean, it's
yeah,
because I feel it in my soul, but I also know that this is how we communicate. Like, we need to be good on video. And good means just get the heck on video. Don't not do it because you're in your own way. And there are, again, just little ways, tips and tricks that you can make your videos better.
yeah. Which I feel like I need to take your course to learn how to do that because I'm literally against the white wall right now.
Well, we're going to get you a background. We're going to get you a background. You can do a virtual background.
I can do that. Yeah, I do have my virtual backgrounds, and I sometimes go back to my father's home country of Fiji when I'm feeling particularly uh, like I'm missing the warm weather. But no, it's a thing. There's so many ways in which we can just elevate our online presence that I think people are really gravitating towards right now, right?
Well, and I just want to say, further to your presence on video. I mean, girl, you're doing the thing. Like you created this. You never let it stop you, like anything at all stop you. And you don't need a background because you're gorgeous, and we should just be looking at you. That's it. Yes, exactly. I mean, you're showing up, you're smiling, you're being you, you're being real. Like that's what we need. That's
Hmm.
what we need. And here's another tip I'll just give to anyone who's watching. A really great way to connect with your audience is to be like, so are you there? Like just lean in. Just lean in. Like this is the thing, is like moving in. Like I gotcha, right? Like, you just kind of move in. Like that's not hard to do. Another thing you can do is like, okay, well, let me just show you this. I want to show you this right here. Like you can
Yeah,
kind of really use the camera.
yeah.
That's take it from someone who's been on TV for the last 15 years. That's my little tip that helps people out.
Guys, she started when she was 3 years old,
That's
15
right.
years in the business.
That's right. That's right. I was a baby. A little tiny baby.
I love it. So what have been the roughest parts for you during quarantine?
Oh, I think structure. I think structure really is tough. And not seeing people. I love, loved, loved my job at CBS, and I'm not working there as much right now. And it's tough. It's tough to not see those people. So not seeing them and being in the exciting mix of things is tough. And then structure. Like I try to get up and I try to work out and I try to do all those things, and I'm pretty good at it, but I am a beast when it comes to getting stuff done. So I'm not getting as much stuff done. Now that
Right.
actually might be a good thing because you can then take your time with things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's valid. Because your schedule pre-corona, and I was chatting with motivational speaker Billy Alsbrooks a couple of days ago, and he was like, we're now gonna like re-identify with this time continuum. It's gonna be BC and AC, before corona and after corona. Uh,
Yeah.
but sorry, that was slightly
It makes sense. I'm no, I'm telling you, it is very, yeah. Well, I call it 1.0 and 2.0. Like life before it was 1.0. Now life
Okay.
after it started is 2.0. I hope we get to a 3.0.
I like that.
I'll take a 3.0 anytime.
Yeah. Bring it on, bring it on. So
Yeah.
with the 1.0, you were doing all the things. Now you're still doing all the things, but now they're kind of it seems more structured from an outsider's perspective. And I'm not your husband or your dog, so I can't see the day to day, going ons in your life. But how are you like taking a step back? Has that, do you think, helped your mental health, emotional health, physical health? Like, what have been the ways in which stepping back has helped you,
It's a
if at all?
great question. That's a great question. And definitely taking a step back gives you this thing called space in your life. And no matter how much work you do on yourself, and like I literally get up and give speeches to hundreds of people, and
Mm,
hello, the emperor has no clothes. Like there are times, like I'm just human like anyone else. So I got issues too. And one of my issues is that I work too damn much. And there's something that drives me to do it. It's this like lack of self-worth unless I get a lot done. I
right.
also work in a very competitive environment. TV news is tough. It'll eat you up and spit you out. So you want to like be working and working, working and pitching stories and doing this and doing that. And yeah, it'll deplete you. It'll deplete you entirely. So I'm trying to be better with just having some space to look at what do I really want to do?
Right.
What do I really want to do? Do I really want my days to be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and I
Mm,
never see my husband or talk to him? I don't get to walk my dog. I don't get to ever watch a show because I don't want, because 1.0 or pre whatever, I never watched a show. I
right.
never read a book or watched a show. I was too
It's just
darn
on
busy.
Netflix, y'all.
Yeah. Now I'm like, let's watch that show. Like,
Yeah.
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 I really didn't do much. I really just worked my ass off. And I need to connect with people. I literally had lunch with a friend on Zoom the other day. We both made our lunches and sat in front of Zoom and just like, how are you? What are you doing? I mean, I would never have done that. Yeah.
You did have lunch breaks though, right? Like you did connect with people. No?
Oh, I would eat as I was like eating with one hand and typing with the other, like yeah.
Okay. I feel like, yep, I can relate to that 1000%. 1000%.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
no, I think it's part of the thing of like, when to make this like not to make this political, but kind of yeah. When you're when you're a
But
woman,
yeah.
you have to work twice as hard, right? To make half the impact, especially when you're a woman of color like I am. But I'm still learning what that means in this country because I didn't grow up with that in my life. But
Welcome to this country, right?
I
Ah,
love it. I love it.
ah.
Bring it on. Here we are. But so were you always wanting to be a news anchor and a public speaker?
I don't think as a child I did. I didn't know that I could be anything. I didn't know that those jobs were available to me. And so when I first got into school, like and started going to college, I just worked on Wall Street. Like I didn't know. I didn't know.
Okay.
I didn't know that that was available. Like I never had any mentors. I never had like I'm the first person to go to college in my family. I didn't know anyone who went to college. Like I just had to figure it out on my own. So I didn't know that those things like I didn't know that you could watch TV and like the people who were on TV were like people that lived in your neighborhood maybe. Like I didn't know that. I did know that I loved to talk. I wouldn't shut up and I love to tell stories. So it was a while before I got that.
You're such an inspiration.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if you realize just how much, I mean, just by living your truth and being so candid and open about it. Um, I mean, I'm sure you know this because you say this about other people all the time, but I'm just gonna hold up a mirror for a minute and just reflect this back to you and just remind you that like what you do on a day-to-day basis and how you impact other people's lives and represent other people's lives in a way that is with love and with compassion. It's just such an admirable thing,
Thank
goddess,
you. Oh, you're
guys.
making me I'm getting all, yeah. Ah,
You're
thank
right.
you.
It's called real talk. We're here to cry, guys.
This
We're here
is
to cry.
real talk, okay? This is real talk. This is some damn real talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
is too little for me to say. Like that. Thank you for seeing me.
Thank you for seeing the world.
Mm.
Thank you for
I
seeing all of
see
us.
you, and
Thank
I
you.
see you hustling and just playing full out with your heart, and I just acknowledge you.
Thank you. Back
Mm.
at you. Ah, I love the War of Compliments is like my favorite game. Oh,
Boom,
okay.
boom, 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 boom.
So, I mean, beyond Zoom calls, and I mean, you're doing your Facebook Live videos and your Instagrams regularly, and I tune in when I get the little notification saying Debra's gone live, and then I like to say little cute comments, pretend that I'm pretend that I'm cool. But how it like is that because that's a relatively new thing that you've been doing to maintain engagement with your audience. Has that been something that you've turned to because you're trying to pivot as the buzzword of the day
Oh,
is?
it's such a buzzword, right?
I'm gonna start a drinking game out of it, I think.
Pivot.
Every time somebody says pivot, entrepreneur, uh, market, just drink.
Yeah, I know. Pivot, 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 pivot. Um, I've done regular Facebook Lives to keep in touch with people, but there are times when I just don't feel like talking to nobody. I'm like, no. There was a while when this whole thing started when I was like, nah, I don't feel like talking. Like I just was kind of in my head and like kind of sad about the state of the world, and I was like, I don't really feel like it. But I came out of it, and it took some work, and I decided that I really wanted to again create myself with the words that I use. So I thought about like, well, who am I? Like, what is my business? This is an opportunity to look inward, and my business is to tell stories on TV, but it's also to be a thought leader.
Yeah,
And now it ain't easy, and it's not comfortable to call yourself a thought leader, okay? Because the first thing that's going to come up is, who the hell do you think you are?
right.
Who the hell do you think you are? And anything I've said in this, by the way, like it ain't like I've like created this amazing new thing. Like, oh, the GTFO method. We all know how we call ourselves terrible things. We all know that we want to call ourselves great things and then act like that. Like we get that. But like I'm not creating anything new, but these words need to come out of me. They're coming through my voice and through my experience. And if you happen to tune into my Facebook Live that day at the time I'm talking about whatever it is, then that was there for you. And
Yeah.
so I needed to step into that role. I knew that's where I wanted to go. And I'm working on a book. I've been working on a book for a while, but I really am working on a
What?
book. Yeah. Oh, I've been working on a book for a long time, which
That's
meant
amazing.
which meant that the book was sitting around. I wasn't doing anything with it. But this is the path that I want to go in. And when I had that opportunity, the freedom to choose my label,
Right.
that's what I want to be as an author and a thought leader. So I'm walking in that path, and I figured that I gotta share. I gotta share stuff because it might impact somebody. That's what
Yeah.
you do, right?
Yeah. No, 1000%. Writing a book is the scariest sounding thing to me.
Yes.
Only because, and I can write songs for days. I'm a good writer. Don't get me wrong, but putting all of yourself out on pages kind of intimidates the crap out of me.
By the way, I like songs for days. Maybe that could be a name of an album.
Oh, all
I like
right.
songs for days.
Songs for
I'm
days.
there. Yeah. Just had to
That
tell
might
you.
be that might be a Kiwiism that I just snuck in, right?
Oh, okay. Well, I
Hey,
like that. That spoke to me.
thank you, thank you. Songs for days. Yeah. Okay. I might even write a song for that.
There you go. Songs for days. I like it. No, it's
Um,
not easy to write a damn book, and that's why I haven't gotten it done.
right.
But as I was creating these new labels and kind of refocusing the business, thought leader was something that I would love to be. I'd love to be thought of as a thought leader. And so how do you do it? You say it and you show up as it. You
Yeah,
own it, right?
for
So I'm
sure.
owning it. And that's part of why I'm doing them every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern.
Nice, which is 6 a.m. for everybody in Pacific time and 1 a.m. for everybody who's watching from New Zealand. So
Well, they live on the Facebook group too, on Facebook page, so you can check them out later when you're awake.
oh no, I mean, New Zealanders are typically awake at 1 o'clock in the morning. They're just probably drunk. So,
And it might sound even better.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? That's awesome. Hey, thank you. Is there anything that you wanted to sort of talk about that we haven't touched on yet, before we sort of take off today? anything, any
Hmm.
words of magic? Oh, you've already spread so much wisdom and so many like inspiring sort of nuggets of thought and action sprinkled throughout this. But is there anything else that you want to sort of cover before we leave people to go on and implement the GTFO methodologies?
Well, first of all, you need help with the GTFO method, reach out to me. I think we covered a lot of stuff. I think one thing that's kind of sitting here for me is the word judgment, because I did this Facebook Live about judgment. And
Right.
I realized that I was judging myself and judging other people and how they're dealing in the pandemic. And that's not a comfortable place. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is maybe some of your viewers might be judging themselves or judging other people. You're not wearing a mask, I'm judging you. You're posting about your restaurant order on Facebook, I'm judging you. Like when there's real suffering in the world, like you're focused on this silly thing in my head, judging you.
Right.
And I'm reading this book about judgment right now.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and I just got the first thing is to get real about the fact that, whoa, we're judging someone to take the eye off of ourselves. That's
I
the
love
number one thing. We're looking at you because I've got to be right over here. And what happens when we judge, we separate, right? It's like, I'm over here, you're over there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know
Right.
and and really in this world right now, man, we can't be more divided. I mean, we're so freaking divided. And so I would invite people to, as judgment creeps up, just notice it, because that's all you really need to do is notice it. And then
Yeah.
don't judge yourself for having it, but just know that you really can't ever be present with somebody when you're judging them. You're really keeping the two of you separate. And then, you don't need to be close to everybody on your Facebook feed. I get that. But the problem is that we suffer when we judge because we feel shitty about it. I know I do. I know
Yeah,
I
for sure.
did. So I don't want people to feel bad. I want people to be powerful. And right now, judgment is creeping in all over the place. We're just human. It's a tough time. So that's my thought right there is next time you judge, just take a moment, forgive yourself for it, and then just know that there's a better way.
I love that you brought that up. Thank you. And I
Yeah.
say that because I not only have I found myself being a little bit too judgy of some people, and most of the people that I judge are people who are judgy as well. So that's a double-edged sword.
Judgy judgers and the judges
Right?
who judge
I
them.
can't. Don't judge me, you judgmental person. Anyway, um,
Right.
but also because I recognize that there's a lot of the disparity in the world is bringing up so much trauma for people, and specifically because people that I'm connected to or my audience come from a very wide range of countries, and each country is dealing with this pandemic very differently, and therefore there's a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of judgment, a lot of anger, and a lot of frustration. And giving you say it, you nailed it on the head. Giving yourself forgiveness, permission to forgive yourself first and foremost, but then letting go of those feelings is so important. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah. Oh, you're so welcome. I just feel things in the world right now. It's such a tough place for so many people.
Yeah,
And one last thought, hey, it's okay to not be okay. That's another great thought because,
great.
we don't have to be redecorating the whole house. We can just kind of not be okay one day, and that's okay.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I want to put a little plug in one more time, because if you are in the DC metro area, there are GW University are offering pay what you can afford for therapy, specifically for artists in the area or creative humans within the DMV area. So if you are struggling and you're feeling like you're not okay, by all means, please reach out to them and don't be ashamed to seek help because it takes a lot of strength to admit that you need help. And of course, everybody back in New Zealand, Australia, England, y'all have free healthcare, so y'all y'all reach out to somebody and make sure that you feed your mental health as well as your emotional, physical, social, and spiritual health as well.
Smart thing to do. Really, it's so important. How can we be powerful if we don't really look inside and try and help ourselves? So, and there's no judgment at all. Hey, I go to a therapist. I'm good with that. I'll tell you, no problem.
It's the best thing for us.
Yeah, yeah,
We are social creatures. We are not in this alone.
and that is right. Oh my gosh. I'm sure somebody learned something here today somehow, some way, and will let us know that this affected them in some positive way. So
I mean,
fantastic. Thank you.
I have no doubts. Thank you so much, Debra. You're, like I said, an absolute light, and ray of sunshine in the world. And I'm so privileged and honored that you took the time to speak with me today. If people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way?
Oh, they can hit up my website, Debra Alfarone, DebraAlf, as in Frank, ARONE.com, or hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, direct message me. It's all good.
Awesome. We are all one, guys. Make sure that you are kind to yourselves. Spread love like it's going out of fashion. Be your own kind of superhero. And please, for the love of cheese, don't forget to call your mum.